Have you been driving along and heard the words, "Whoa, there's another one. Let's stop and take a picture"? Well, whether it's the world's largest turkey, the loon, Lucette, or even Paul Bunyan, these roadside attractions help identify these communities and make them a destination stop.
It's a 20-foot replica of the Minnesota state bird, the loon, and it was built in 1962. And the firemen got together and they thought that they had to have something that would bring people to Burgess. This would become a destination point. And they saw a model, a wooden model of a loon that a guy down in Maplewood State Park, Ellis Wagstrom, had carved, and his son Doug. And they used that as the model. And they hired a welder from down by Pelican Rapids. He worked for West Central, Orville Netterstead, and he created a framework from that their model. And then Norb Franklin and Bolingheimer from Firm, they plastered it, and Bill Rosen, William Rosen, he's the guy that first painted it. Then in 1963, we decided to dedicate it to the memory of E.O. Kruger. He was the postmaster here and had died, and did a lot of work at the park and other things in town. It's been painted a couple of times. One time it got repaired from somebody putting a 30-30 rifle through it, but usually no vandalism. It's been really well respected.
I grew up in Frazee, but I had left many years ago, so I'm bringing my kids around right now to kind of check it all over again. So from far and wide, Alaska, Colorado, Guam, so we have to get a few pictures,
And it has been good for the town. We've been known as a town, as the home of the world's largest loon, Burgess, Minnesota.
I believe it was in about 1989. The Swift plant was still in operation at the time, and somebody had the idea to do a big turkey out here. And we had, of course, a lot of the Mickelsons involved, and Jerry Gibbons was raising turkeys at the time, and we had the fellow from the turkey plant, and we just kind of had a town meeting. And I will recall Jerry Gibbons, I believe, is the one who said, "I'll donate the first $1,000," and that's how it started that night. And we wanted to have it ready by the centennial in 1990, and it was. I think it was about 98 when we redid the turkey. We had some issues with the upkeep on it. It didn't stand up real well. The first one didn't stand up well in the weather. And we did a search again, and this turkey was made in Wisconsin in 3 pieces and moved to Frazee on a flatbed truck. And I believe it took them about 8 hours to put it together. This one is 20 feet tall and I think 17 feet wide. When the turkey burned, that was a couple of fellows. We were going to take the first turkey down to replace it, and they were using like a torch of some kind to cut the metal legs in the front. And it worked really well, so they thought they'd do the wings. And the fire got up inside the hollow wings, and that's when it went fully engulfed in flames.
Being a college student and being away from my hometown growing up and having family that are from out of the community, one of the first things you tell them is about your large turkey that you have in town. And one of the first places I often bring my friends when I'm back from college is the big turkey that stands in my town, because not everyone has a large statue of an animal in their town, and it's something we're very proud of and have a lot of fun with.
Basically, for a tourist attraction, an advertising gimmick, whatever you want to call it. A lot of grief about the turkey, but hey, like I said, it is an advertising thing only, and promotion, and that's what it's all about.
I had a lot of interest in doing something, and so we started exploring ideas, and we found a Pelican that was in the city. We decided to copy that and make it into the Pelican. Ted Rissett, he and his brother both had a blacksmith shop, and they agreed to make it if we decided to go with it. And so I went over to Chamber of Commerce, and they eventually made an agreement that we could go ahead with it. A local guy that was a really good as far as putting on cement, he knew how to do it, and he'd done it all his life. He says, I'll put it on and I'll make it stay. And that's the same cement's been on there for 50 years. The traffic to start with was unbelievable. We sold thousands of cards right away, and our local people have been very excited about having it up, and so anybody going through the town, why, they'd look down and see this, and they'd come down with their family and taking pictures, and so a lot of pictures have been taken on with that Pelican. After we got this up, it was so popular that it wasn't long the neighboring towns wanted to put up something too, and so one by one they started putting him up. They want to get their part in it too,
A friend of mine up in Biwabic sent me a clipping from the Virginia newspaper telling about St. Urho chasing the frogs out of Finland. I published it. Then the professor of English at Bemidji College, Sulu Havamaki, sent a correction down and said it was grasshoppers, not frogs, and to be celebrated on March 16th. A bunch of us were having coffee one day and decided that nobody knew what Urho looked like, so we had a contest. A young lady from the community of Finnish descent came up with a sketch of St. Urho, which is the
Rita
statue.
Seppala.
Yeah, Rita Seppala. And the statue is a copy of her sketch. And we hired a woodcarver in Minneapolis. Mark went down and watched the progress, of which there was none.
We hijacked our block of wood, brought it back to Menagha. And one Saturday morning, Jack comes into, I was in business at the time here in a clothing store. Jack walks in, says, hey, he says, there's a wood carver up in Park Rapids, up at Gulbranson's, right?
Yep.
He says, you thinking what I'm thinking? I said, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Let's go see how good he is. Well, we were impressed. The fellow's name was Jerry Ward. We were impressed with his operation. A three-way deal where he would come down, spend a few months in Menagha, living here, and literally carve our block of wood into the likeness of St. Urho. And you can see this is basically what it looks like now. It's a beauty. He did a well done job. It helps the town. It puts the town on the map. If we had what? If we had a penny for every photograph that had been taken here, we could both retire right now. People know Menagha by St. Urho. If they stop, they see the statue, they take a look at it, they have their picture taken here. The next thing you know, well, let's see. You hungry at Gladys? Yeah, well, let's go have some breakfast. There's a nice place right downtown here. And the next thing you know, they say, this is not a bad little community. Maybe when we retire, we ought to think about it. It does.
It's helped. And one thing I'll guarantee you, there are no grasshoppers here on the 16th of March.
Never have been, actually, since we've got the statue.
Theoretically, we're the birthplace of Paul Bunyan. It's not because of of anything substantial other than that's a legend, but the point is that the first written word of Paul Bunyan was printed here by the Red River Lumber Company in their advertising in the early 1900s. Later on in 1984, 5, I guess it was built in 85, Jerry Stevens was the president of the CNC at that time, and I helped him, and in contact with Kratzer and his sons, and CNC hired him to build a statue at that time, and that's the one you see there now. 30-some feet high. Mr. Kratzer said if he stood up, which he isn't, he would be 55 feet high. He said he's 32, I believe, is what it is now. It was something to draw people. We had a cradle, as you can see, it's behind Paul there now, and that in itself was kind of a draw. But as far as picture-taking draw, this is the big one. It's estimated that it's probably the most photographed thing in Hubbard County. There's two things that draw people to Akley, among other things. We've got a beautiful campground down by the lake, but that's one that draws. But Paul Bunyan, as far as, somebody from long ways from here, they'll say, well, Akley, they'll think of Paul Bunyan.
Everybody looking right here, big smiles. And 1, 2, and 3.